We're going to do a reaction video. I haven't watched this thing yet. Tom Nash on the U.S.-Iran conflict will make smart investors rich. So kind of curious what his take is on that. You know, Tom Nash actually interviewed me about 5 years ago, and I don't think the video ever got printed. I made it too boring. I don't know. Anyways, we were talking real estate. I also got a little political when we talked, so maybe he was smart and did not put it out there. But I guess he fancies him a stock guy, just like I do myself a real estate guy. And I can tell you, I've never seen any stocks come close to being as fast a way to produce wealth as real estate. In fact, Tom, if you ever want to do a battle of wits sometimes, I'm game. I'd be interested. You say you got a huge following. I did catch the beginning of that. And, you know, in real estate, those you guys know, I already, you know, I've added probably 9 more dots on this, and there's more than 100 here, I believe, to my portfolio. And that's all just from the last 2 years. And there's nothing like real estate, nothing. You don't have the leverage with stock, none of that compares. But I thought, what the heck, we'll listen to Tom. I'm curious to hear what he has to say. He seems to think the conflict can make investors rich. You know, historically, wars, it would seem, can be good for the industrial boom. It helps. Also, hey, you know what? I could have also called this video I read the video manual and read the audio manual because if you look, my skin's skin color, right? I finally read the camera manual and started doing a little better job, I think. But give me some feedback. Let me know on that. Also, I think a lot of audio complaints about a new mic, but I think I got this thing finally dialed in. Part of that's because I'm retiring and I'm starting to take time to do other stuff, right? Take time to smell the roses and read the manuals. So, does any of you guys watching right now? Do you watch Tom Nash? Let me know. What do we got here? Real estate is the best way to riches. Just buy right. Yep, absolutely, bud. I think stocks are very, very volatile. Yeah, you don't have the leverage. You can't get rich. You cannot get rich with stocks. I had one opportunity. I had a buddy of mine said, call Tom. I said, Tom, I think this thing's going to go 15 times. And this was, I think, it was U.S. Air. You know, they'd gone, Bill, they went kind of down to nothing. And I actually had a pile of money at the time. But I don't buy stock. I don't know it. I don't pretend to know it. And I go, and I did. And I remember I told these stock guys around the table, it was at Starbucks, and most of the guys I know, they do stocks, and I got no interest. But I told them about that. I said, hey, my buddy's saying buy this. He's a pretty smart guy. I don't know, though. Don't take it from me. That stock went up 50 times. So 100 grand could have been 5 million. That was pretty impressive to me. That was very impressive to me. Let's see, Ironwood wrote, I've seen his stuff over the years. He was early into Palantir and hangs his hat on it, but doesn't post his losses or his losers. I got you. In fact, yeah. Well, you know what? Hey, I got him cranked up. We'll see how fast he speaks. And give me a second, and we're going to come right back and start this right up. All right, so I pushed him at 1 1/4 speed. I may punch him to 1 1/2 speed. Let me know if the audio is good, please. Please, that's important.
We're heading into the final stretch of the US versus Iran situation. And as it's happening across the world, people are talking about oil prices, they're talking about the VIX, they're talking about defense stocks. There's a lot of hoopla, a lot of noise, and a lot of bad information, a lot of horrible strategies, and mostly people who have no business advising and explaining other people how to invest are on TV, on social media, giving you bum info. Now in this video, I'll show you, number 1, how smart top 1% investors use this to make a lot of money. And number 2, I'm going to show you one hidden winner out of this whole situation no matter what happens. It is a truly unicorn stock, a stock that's going to win no matter how this thing plays out. So we will have that. We'll also give you a full system on how to use this situation to make generational wealth without gambling, without getting lucky, without timing the market even once. Now, a lot of people are going to be talking about this: oil, defense. I'm not saying not to do that. You can talk about oil and defense if you are a short-term trader. You can talk about oil and defense if you want to gamble, and you may make a lot of money in the short term. But guess what? You can make a lot of money right now. Go to the casino, put it on black.
Okay, so he seems to be pretty confident. He seems to be pretty confident. You know, look, I show you guys how I make money, and like I said, I put another 8-9 dots on the map on my little Google Earth map, and I can tell you the last dot I put on here, I made $1 million, right? $1 million, and so I like to see when people are so confident, and I hope. Maybe he'll show it. Josh said he doesn't show the losers, so I don't know about that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know anything about him. Be nice to see you both talking to each other on which is better. Yeah, I'm game. I'm game, Tom. Listen, I guess we have some of the same following, but yeah, I am purely real estate, and I don't think anybody can ever show me anything that did as well. In fact, it'd be interesting, Tom. You could show your winners over the last 10 years or 5 years or whatever, and I can show you mine. I enjoy watching some Tom Nash. Would enjoy seeing your video with him. Okay, well, you're going to get a little taste of that right now, I guess. So let's just watch this, and I guess audio's good, right? Nobody's complaining. So those of you just got here, hey, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Listen, you should always listen. I can tell you. Even I own a little bit of stock, right? It's a fraction of what I have in real estate wealth. And I can say I think my stock's gone up probably, God, what am I going to say? I don't know. I don't watch it very closely anyways, but I bet it's gone up 25, maybe 20%. Nah, that's too much. No, I would say it's gone up 10%, probably in the last, God, at least, I don't know, probably in the short term, probably only in 6-8 months, right? I don't know. You guys know better than I do if you have stock. I don't really pay attention to mine. It just sits there. It just sits there, and it's like Costco and I don't know. I'll take a look at it sometime for you guys. I don't even care. It's just not what I do. It pales in comparison with real estate. Nothing comes close. I made $1 million with 900,000. I made, and just about every I make on average on that's a good deal. That's a really good deal. Don't get me wrong. But on average, I can always make $100,000, 100 to 150 grand with $300,000. And the beauty of real estate, unlike stock, is you're buying a stock and hoping it goes up in value. When I buy real estate, I'm buying it for less than it's worth. So imagine being able to buy a stock. Imagine being able to buy $300,000 worth of stock for 200 grand. That's real estate. That's real estate. That's why I do real estate. Anyways, let's get watching this. Look forward to hearing from you guys that are in here, your comments. So let's watch them.
Put it on red, and you can literally double your money. I'm not talking about gambling, and I'm not talking about short-term deals and trading. We're talking about no risk, long-term, generational wealth, slow, get rich, the whole 9 yards, and also a hidden winner, which nobody really understands how big this thing is going to get. You don't want to miss that. So don't click nothing. Don't smash nothing.
Did he say slow get rich? I want to hear this last part again. Back up just a little bit.
The whole 9 yards, and also a hidden winner, which nobody really understands how big this thing is going to get. You don't want to miss that. So don't click nothing. Don't smash nothing. And so term deals and trading, we're talking about no risk, long-term, generational wealth, slow, get rich, the whole 9 yards, and also a hidden winner, which nobody really understands how big this thing is going to get. You don't want to miss that. So don't click nothing, don't smash nothing, and certainly don't buy nothing.
So he said slow, get rich. So that's interesting. I mean, I guess that has some appeal.
Nothing, just listen and pay attention. We're getting started right now. So number one, first and foremost, let's talk about getting away from the headlines, getting away from the gambling. This is not a good way to make money from stocks and from the stock market, and this is no way to profit and build long-term generational wealth. Headlines and gambling, especially in times of crisis, when the spirits are elevated, when everybody are emotional, there's a lot of impulsiveness, a lot of noise. This is not it, okay?
I know people that actually do very well. I did some day trading for a while. I absolutely hated it. And what I could tell you is I could sit in a room with 10 other guys and watching CNBC, and some jackass gets on there and talks about how great the stock is going to go up. And we could just literally buy that stock watch it go up, and then sell it, and watch it go back down. Because people actually just, it didn't matter who spoke on it, CNBC. People would just simply, you'd see it rise. As soon as somebody says, buy it, goes up, get rid of it quick. I mean, it's just really that crazy. It's that trading turds, people follow just the masses are the asses. And I think there's a ton of that in stocks. I mean, just for sure it does. And, but you can do it if you jump in and jump out, even though if you don't believe in it, you jump in, you jump out, because other people are going to jump in. You just got to jump out before they do. And anybody got any strong thoughts on that? Please share, but let's keep watching.
We will make money by investing in the second order effects that are going to be visible in 5 to 10 years from now, that are going to benefit massively from whatever is going to play out on the geopolitical stage. We're going to create a cheat code that gets away from headlines and from noise and gets into this space, which has a much higher chances of making you rich and ensuring your financial future. On top of it, I'm going to show you how the top 1% of investors are setting up right now for what's about to happen with US, with Iran, with Russia, with Ukraine. The whole thing didn't start when the US-Iran situation happened. Before that, we had Russia and Ukraine. We had the wars in the Middle East. This is always the case. The world is chaotic. The world isn't a straight line 10% per year average like the S&P 500. These sort of things happen. We, as smart investors...
Okay, I'd be interested in maybe one of you guys watching. Do you have any idea, how does he quantify like a good stock? He said like 10% are, I'm just telling you, you can become a millionaire in a year, easy, in real estate. And I say easy, if you apply yourself, and I got many students that have done it, students, right? New millionaires in my class, new millionaires. In fact, I've got a nice Russian kid that has done very well, and I think he's probably watching right now. Well, if he's, come on in here, let me know, see if you're in here, Russ. But, so I've never seen it. Stocks do not have the leverage. I tell you, even if you buy a property, if I buy a property and I got a 20% return, I pay $100,000, I got a 20% return. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. Because if I got a 20% return on $100,000, that means I probably made more than $100,000. In other words, if I bought something for $100,000 and the return on that was 20%, then it's because I made $100,000. In other words, I bought it so cheap that I made $100,000. That's why I have that high return. But do I want to wait a year to make $20,000, or do I just want to turn the asset and get the 100 that I made right away, and then now take that 200 and see if I can't do the same thing? That's real estate. It's much, much faster game for getting wealthy. Much, much faster. And hey, and any of you that happen to come in here because you like Tom or you watch Tom, hit that subscribe button. Join here. I promise you. I do a webinar every Thursday, 7 p.m. And you'll find out, right? And real quick, bear with me, my regular followers, but all this real estate, all these dots you see here, every one of these are pieces of property that I bought. And this is tens of millions of dollars I've made, right? And I started with nothing. And I just would never want anybody to not see the benefits of real estate. And it is much safer, I think, far safer than stocks. But let's keep watching.
Top 1% investors have a way to use this to create generational wealth, which is exactly what I'm showing this video. Super excited for this. Okay. Number one, I'm not going to be talking about politics. I don't care what your political affiliation is. I don't care what you think about the war. If it should happen, should not happen. If it happens, if it doesn't happen, what is your prediction? This has nothing to do with this. We are not here to talk about politics. We're not here to talk about morals. We're here to talk about your portfolio. So political views are not relevant here. It is what it is. We're here to talk about your portfolio, how your portfolio can benefit from whatever happens by making some smart moves. This is not about profiteering from war. This is not hoping that there's going to be more violence. This is not about that. We're here to ensure that your portfolio gets out better on the other end in 5, 10 years without sugarcoating it, without being politically correct, by stating it like it is. Okay? Number two.
It's hard for me to think out 5, 10 years. It really is. I mean, I think about that, but not like, I don't look at my assets and go, gee, I can't wait till this matures in 10 years. I can't even imagine that mindset. And I'm sure it works for you guys, and I'm sure it works for Tom. And but it's just a really different thing. It'd be interesting to actually have we should do another video, Tom. And because, boy, it's a world of difference. I can't relate to much what you're saying here, but you sound like you believe in what you say, and I'm sure you're good. I'm hearing some good things.
I'm going to explain this.
Jerry, good to see you in here, by the way.
straight up. A lot of people, when they see these sort of situations play out and they see wars and geopolitical instability, the first kind of knee-jerk reaction is to go 100% cash. Now, that is a horrible strategy. And the reason it's a horrible strategy is not because you're going to lose money on day one or day two. In fact, the stock market might drop for a few months and you might feel like the smartest person on earth that you got out just in the nick of time. But guess what? Sitting in cash ensures you're going to lose a lot of money. The risks are always there. It's just which risk you want to pick. You want to get hammered by inflation? Go right ahead. If you sit in cash for the next 10 years, the value, the purchasing power of your dollar will get diminished by 45%. And that is a fact. And that is...
Yeah, no, I believe that is. I would totally agree. I know the exact statistics on that. But so I wasn't even sure what he was talking about, but he's talking about sitting on cash. Yeah, listen, how many of you people are sitting in a home that maybe you bought your home and now your home's worth 3 or 4 times as much from the time you bought it? And you could have bought the place across the street, and you could own that, and now you'd have all that more equity. You'd have as much equity in your home you would have again in the property across the street. That's real estate. And so, or how many of you are renting in a home that you could have bought, and now you can't afford it today because it's worth so much more than it was when you could have bought it. And even though you saved all your money, maybe you saved $500,000, that $500,000 you saved, the house went up more than that, just sitting there, and you already paid out the rent, which could have otherwise been a mortgage. So he's right about that. He's 100% right about cash does nothing. Cash, if you're not, I tell everybody, if you're not investing in real estate, and now you got to invest right. Listen, I don't want to say it's a blanket statement, but you can actually invest half poorly and still, keep above the inflation in general. You can make some big mistakes, and so I'm not advising that. I tell everybody, if you got the money to invest in real estate, take time. By the way, I better plug the book too. So yeah, get my book. By the way, get your copy. Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. This will be the best $20 you ever spent. I promise you that. People have made $1 million just off the book. So, but get the book. That's peanuts. Get your toes wet for almost nothing. Check it out. All right, let's get back into this. So we did find somewhere where we agree, and that is cash sitting still is a nightmare. But I've also, if anybody bought Bitcoin, they lost half their value in Bitcoin, right? And I'm not saying he's an advocate of Bitcoin, but listen, what happened with Bitcoin, people that bought into Bitcoin recently, right? And it went from, and I don't know the numbers. I don't buy that. I call it shitcoin. I just don't like it. Anyways, you buy that stuff and you put out 200 grand. Today you have 100. So that's the volatility with stock. And now I've seen that with stock. I wouldn't touch stock for that reason. Just that reason alone. Because with real estate, that won't happen. You can buy, but you can kind of watch it go downhill. You can buy, you can overpay, but it doesn't like flip. It doesn't just flip on you over bad news or, one poor thing happens. Because I've seen that.
3% per year inflation. Imagine if we have another bad inflation a couple of years like we had just a few years ago. 45% is the standard. Might actually get worse. So you can choose that, a 45% decrease in the real value of your purchasing power, or you can be in the S&P 500, which went through wars, which went through political chaos, crisis, all sorts of horrible things have happened in the world and in the economy, and we had recessions. All of this happened, pandemics. The S&P gave you 10% like clockwork. And guess what? 10% over the course of 6 years literally doubles your money. Well, this eats away at your money. And a lot of you are going to say, well, Tom, how about we get out for 6 to 12 months, then we jump right back in when this war is over. You could do that. But guess what? The market isn't going to be rational. It's not going to wait for you. Some people do that, and then the market spikes. They keep waiting. The market spikes again. They keep waiting, and then they get locked out. They don't want to jump back in at double the price.
But what about buying the dips, right? Isn't he kind of overlooking that? Buying the dips? Am I wrong? Somebody tell me. In fact, you know what? Let's just, for the hell of it, and you guys can help me think this through. Let's just go into AI here, and let's just say, historically, does real estate, we'll just say increase in value, faster than we'll say the S&P. See what AI says. Okay. This is what it says. Historically, the answer depends entirely on how you measure value. If you look strictly at price appreciation, the price of the asset going up, the S&P generally outperforms residential real estate. However, real estate investors see higher total wealth because of leverage. There you go. There you go, right there. That's key thing. And so those of you that aren't following that is you can buy a piece of real estate. You can buy $100,000 piece of real estate, say, for 20 grand, okay? So if you took your 20 grand, you bought $20,000 worth of stock. So if you bought a $20,000 piece of real estate, or you bought a $20,000 stock, they're saying that stock probably would outperform the real estate. But the difference is the $20,000 you spend on a piece of real estate, you're buying something that's $100,000 because you got the leverage, right? In other words, a bank is going to finance the difference. And now you're getting the appreciation on 100 grand. And now that will far outperform. But I'm already reading a little bit too much into it, but let's just see. The stock edge, when you reinvest dividends, S&P benefits from massive compounding. The real estate edge, real estate is less volatile. That's what I was saying earlier. While stocks can drop 20% in a month or overnight, right? Home prices tend to move much slower. And that's why I say you have time to get out. I have a chapter in my book, by the way. I have a chapter in my book called Leapfrogging. And it's actually about selling. I buy in a declining market, but I buy so far below market that I can buy it and I can sell it before those lines converge and make money. But anyhow, let's get back to Tom.
That's why Peter Lynch said, waiting for a pullback has cost people way more money than any pullback in history. Now, it's not going to be our first, our last, or the worst war we will ever see. If it happens, if it doesn't happen, it's not going to be the first time human beings are shooting at each other. It's going to keep happening, okay? And it's going to be the same story every single time, the same playbook every single time. And all we have to do here, folks, is just study the freaking history. History tends to repeat itself when it comes.
Yeah, I'm not somebody that subscribes to history always repeats itself because too many things are changing. But I'm going to back up just a little bit just so we can hear that. And anybody can I play him just a little bit faster? I'm going to do him to 1.5, just so you guys just kind of see this is how I kind of watch all video faster. Let's watch again.
Single time, the same playbook every single time. And all we have to do here, folks, is just study the freaking history. History tends to repeat itself when it comes to these things. This is not the first time we are on the brink of some global geopolitical crisis. It happened many, many times before, and let me tell you a secret, it's going to keep on happening in the future, whether you like it or not, okay? Now, I have decades of investing experience. I brought you stocks like Palantir when it was the most hated stock in the stock market. But
that's funny, Iron. You called him. Iron wrote, he said that, what'd you write? Let me see what you wrote. It's one of the first comments he made. He said, I've seen his stuff over the years. He was really into Palantir and hangs his hat on it, but doesn't post his losers. So anyways, Tom, and he's kind of hanging his hat on Palantir again. And not that there's anything wrong with that. But you're right.
1,200% ago, I've built a 30,000 member Roic Academy. I know how to build systems and how to build process that works, that is proven over the long haul. So you better listen, because I'm not going to sell you some bullshit idea how to follow into a trade, get out of a trade, and gamble. We're going to talk about a proven system, a proven process that works. We're not going to be talking about politics. We're going to be talking about money, okay? And if you want to make money, you have to follow the money. So let's talk about history here, okay? Part 1 is about history, right? Okay. So war always leads to uncertainty. It leads to chaos. And if there's one thing markets absolutely hate, this is uncertainty and chaos. That is why every time we're in the brink of war, every time the war starts, we have a market pullback. But does it lead to a stock market crash like we had in 2000, like in 2008, even the COVID crash? No, not the case. If you study history, that is literally not the case, okay? The story is insanely identical every single time. What we have is a dip and then a bounce. Historically speaking, every time we have a war, we have a 35-day of...
I don't know if this really counts as a war like some of the wars that we've had in the historical wars, where we were just neck deep in them. But, this looks like this is not going to be that significant anyways. But so I don't know if equating this to like a World War II or anything like that is quite right.
Of a market dip, which seems super scary, but for the next 12 months, we are going up into all-time highs. And I'll show you exactly the numbers right now, and the numbers are going to blow you away, folks, okay? So over the past 50 years, the S&P 500 dipped 6.4% in the first 10 days after a war started. But if you look at the 12 months, it is up 9% on average. Again, for the past 5 decades, every time we had a war, the initial drop was 6.4%, and the bounce back in the next 12 months was 9%. If you combine these two numbers, from the bottom to the top, it's 15.4% on average. People who have bought the dip during a war over the past 50 years have made 15.4% over the course of the next 12 months. That is historical data. Over the past 30 years, we had 70 wars take place.
See, to me, that's a miserable return. So those of you that are watching, I'm just telling you, this is the difference with real estate. And not all real estate investors are the same. I can tell you, I just did something with, what's his name, Zuber? Mr. Zuber. Michael Zuber. And he buys real estate completely differently, right? In other words, I would say he's more like a lot of people compared to me. And I have a lot of respect for Michael. He's the real deal. He's made money. And it was really interesting because he was talking about having a high W-2 income and investing in real estate. And some guys were trying to diminish his achievements because of that, and I didn't think that was fair. But at the same time, it's different. Where I started with, where he was getting a big check while investing in real estate, I never had that. I started with nothing, and so everything I bought, and this is the fantastic discipline that I got out of investing in real estate by having nothing and starting with nothing and coming from nothing, is that no matter what I bought, it had to be a deal. I mean, if I didn't buy it unless it was felt like Christmas, I would not buy it. That's why I say, imagine you could buy a stock that's $100 a share and you can buy it for $50 a share. That's real estate. Because I wouldn't buy anything that wasn't worth more. People say, Tom, you got balls of steel. No, I don't. No, I don't. I'm just smart. I know that I'm buying it because it's worth twice as much as I'm paying for it. It's simple. It's very, very simple. And now finding the deals, that's a little bit different. That's a bit of an art. But I'm just telling you, so when he talks about making 15% a year, and that's like buying the dip when things are going, like hitting an opportunity. Listen, real estate, there's always a dip somewhere with someone. In other words, it's a human thing. There's death, divorce, disease, just depression, all these different D words, and retiring and different things. And those things bring about those opportunities to buy something that would be kind of like a dip, but much, much better. And it's something that can be repeated over and over again. And the other thing is look at this never-ending inventory. Look at that. And by the way, and also, you got to have the ability to adapt and buy everything, right? In other words, when you're looking at my portfolio behind me, you've got industrial property, commercial property, offices, apartment buildings, and just to pick out a few. Like, look, here's a 16,000 square foot office building. I've owned that for 20-something years. Same tenant for 20 years, too. Here's another building. This is a flex space, 20,000 square feet. I've owned that for about 20 years. Freeway property, right off the freeway. We've got a building. Where is it? I missed it. Right here it is. This one here. Look, beautiful building. Fantastic access. This is the kind of stuff that always stays full because it's in the middle of everything, right? And it's on the way home. It's at the going home side of the road. It's going to work side of the road. Real estate is so you guys that are into stock, I'm telling you, first of all, if you just got here, hit that subscribe button. Don't let my channel get away from you. Imagine being able to buy stock. You can buy a stock that's $100 a share, and you can buy it for $50 a share. That's how I buy real estate, and you can do it too. My students are doing it. Some of my students are in here right now. Ironwood, I recognize one of them right there. He's a millionaire. He did it with land just like I did it with land in the 1980s. So I've showed you just now. I showed you office, right? Now, commercial buildings like the one I just showed you. Houses. These are houses, right? In fact, I sold 3 houses here, made $1.5 million, took that money and bought a industrial building. And I went from making $4,500 a month to making $12,000 a month. And here's this little restaurant. Bought that for $750,000, sold it for $730,000, sold it for $930,000. A couple of years later, or not even, maybe it was a year later. Anyways, these are the kinds of things that you can do. And look at all the opportunities. Look how close proximity they are. I can throw a rock either direction from where I'm sitting right now, hit something I own, throw it, and hit again and again and again, and probably nothing less than $100,000 to $500,000 profit. And that's what you can do. That is what you can do. Stock doesn't compare to it. And Tom, if you end up watching this, please, we should actually do a collaboration, and we can just kind of, point, counterpoint. You obviously know a lot about stock. Be interesting to hear from you, learn from you, and I can teach you a lot about real estate. Anyway, let's get back to Tom. Anybody got any
place across
questions,
the
just throw
world,
them in there.
which is a point for another video why we're having so much war. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It happened. And while this happened, the S&P gave you 1,200% and the NASDAQ gave you 2,000%. All of this happened in the past 30 years while the wars kept on happening. It's going to keep on happening for the next 30 years, no matter if you like it or not. It's not about liking war. It's about understanding that the stock market keeps on chugging along no matter how insanely messy the world is. Okay? Now, let me talk about energy here for a second, because a lot of people would like to buy oil right now out of this knee-jerk reaction. And I'm not automatically against oil. I just want to clarify this. Oil can be a nice cyclical to play around if you understand in energy, if you understand cyclicals, if you're a trader. But guess what? There's always this problem with oil that we have this fear. The fear leads to a spike and then a reversal. The same thing happened during the Russian invasion to Ukraine. Oil went up all the way to $91 per share. Then it spiked to 130. All of this happened in the span of a month. So if you bought at 91, a month later this was at 130, you made a lot of money. But guess what? Right now, oil is about 70.
See, now this is the problem.
The price in December
90 to 130. So you make, so that's like putting out $90,000, right? And now you make 40. Sounds really nice. But see, with real estate, you put out $18 and you would get that kind of return because you're leveraged. In other words, you've got the banks that you owe money on the property, but that's being covered by the tenants. So you get the benefit of leverage, and so you make much more with leverage.
Number 22 of oil was 80. So if you bet on oil long term over the past 4 years, you haven't made any money. There was the initial spike. You could have used this if you're a trader, if you're a gambler, but as a long-term investment, oil isn't it, okay? On the other hand, defense stocks, which a lot of people are flocking to right now as well, they can be a much better solution because they actually have solid fundamentals and they get better every year, and there's something to work with there. For example, Lockheed Martin, since 2022, it made 64% since. By the way, the initial spike after the Russian invasion to Ukraine was 30%. It's up 64% since. It's not as good as the S&P 500, for example, but it's a solid return. So there is a story here to be told with security and defense stocks. I don't think it's as good as pick, but it's certainly better than betting on oil because oil is cyclical, it's volatile. At least with defense stocks, with the good ones, you can get a nice return. If you want something in your
I mean, it's interesting because obviously we're pulling a lot more oil out of our own soil. We got an administration that's drill, baby, drill. So everybody, in that you can see much more oil friendly, much more USA oil friendly right now. But also on the defense factor, that's huge because also we have a super proactive president that has bringing in, if we by his count, $17 trillion of investment coming in over the next few years, and so that is a lot of money, and that is a lot of airplanes, and a lot of it is airplanes. A lot of countries have made big promises to buy planes. They've made big commitments, and so all that is great for the economy. And it's just pro growth. And right now it's the first time we've had, I think, more private sector jobs growing than government jobs. Government jobs are terrible. People get excited about government jobs growing. It's the worst thing in the world because they're paid for with tax dollars. But private sector jobs, of course, are from profits. So let's keep going.
Your portfolio, you should add them or not because there's a war that may or may not happen in Iran or not, but because you think it's a good addition to your portfolio. Don't bet on it. Don't gamble on it, okay? At the same time, if you look at tech tends to react very negatively when a war starts. A war starts, tech plummets, falls off a cliff, and then it rebounds every single time. Look at NVIDIA. Yeah. NVIDIA dropped like a crazy person right after the invasion in 2022.
I thought he was going to get to showing something. I thought he was getting to something here. Let's see. Back to Palantir.
To AI and tech, which means you both benefit from the spike because of the war and the long-term fundamentals like no other company can give you. No other company has both the connection to the defense sector and the long.
Okay, this is the unicorn stock. So
and that stock will offer you
I believe this.
It's a horrible, tragic event. They are a buying opportunity for tech stocks, historically speaking, objectively speaking, political opinions aside, right? And it's been the same story since 1940, right? There's a dip and then there's a strong year, okay? Oil and defense, questionable about defense. Oil, certainly not the case. But as I said in the beginning of this video, there is one superstar, unicorn stock, that beats everybody, that blows everyone out of the water, which is simply the best. Because that stock has what nobody else can offer. And that stock will offer you a spike when a conflict starts, because it has a very strong exposure to defense, because of its government defense project, which is about 50% of its business, but also it gives you this long-term bounce from a tech perspective, because 50% of its other business is related to AI and tech, which means you both benefit from the spike because of the war and the long-term fundamentals like no other company can give you. No other company has both the connection to the defense sector and the long-term tech sector. And that stock is Palantir, ticker PLTR. I've been talking about the stock for the past 5 years. And for the past 5 years, people have been saying, oh my God, Tom, look at the P ratio, the P ratio. And while everybody were focused on the high PE of the stock, again, going back to the Russian invasion to Ukraine, this stock is up over 1,000% since that moment in February of 2022. And it will continue to do that because it has strong fundamentals, tech exposure, and it rises in chaos, which is the perfect setup. If you're focused on the high PE of Palantir, you can stay on the sideline, but it means you have never bought a stock like Palantir, Tesla, Nvidia, Microsoft, because these stocks are not cheap. These stocks.
So it sounds like the growth that he's talking about that could happen with Palantir is on par with what real estate investors get by just leveraging, to be honest. It doesn't sound fantastic. It sounds fantastic compared to the other stocks, but it doesn't sound fantastic compared to just decent real estate, just good fundamental real estate investing. Because just good fundamental real estate investing, you can do it exactly what he said. You can make 1,000%, and it's not that tough. It's not that tough to do. And you look at guys like Ben Malla and others that have tremendous wealth. And in Ben Malla, he didn't do it with other people's money. It's not like, a lot of these yo-yos come out there and they talk big, but, they turned out they have 3,200 investors with them. It's really, but I'm telling you, solopreneurs, right? I'm a solopreneur. Ben Malla's a solopreneur. And that's where the money's at, is being a solo game. Josh in here, Jerry in here, both millionaires, new real estate millionaires, are made over $1 million in real estate since being under my tutelage, and they'll tell you they're big believers in it, and many other students too. And so I would just tell you guys that are here that are looking at stock, or if you're into stock, take time to investigate. Go to my channel, go to Flip Anything USA, because it's just a world of difference of anything else you've ever seen out there. And you can come in here and you can look, oh, geez, what happened here? Now, here we go. Anyways, go to the success page up at the top of the page, and you'll see investors that I've only been teaching people this, like for 5 years. I've only been teaching as a mentor. I've been an investor for 45 years. But what you'll see is people like that have made $1 million. Here's one, more than $1 million here. More than $1 million here. Jerry's actually watching right here. More than $1 million there. Where's Josh? Josh is in here somewhere too. He's got to be in here. Josh, you're in here somewhere. But listen, many millionaires, and it all has to do with leverage and buying below market. Buying below market and leverage, there's nothing like it. And like you saw, we went into AI just a little bit ago, and we're talking about they said the big difference is the game with leverage. 20% down gets you a much higher return because you're getting the benefit of all that real estate. And also, by the way, if you like land, and Josh loves land, I do too. Made a lot of money in land. In fact, just give you a quick example. I back in the 80s, right? I've been doing this 45 years. So, but if you go back into the 80s, I bought over 60 lots, okay? And on average, each of those blue dots you see right there is the equivalent of 5 to 6 lots, right? I didn't want to put 60 dots here. But I could buy a lot for 10 grand and sell it for 30 and make 20 grand. In fact, that's what turned me, I built 3 homes in this neighborhood. And what happened was, it would take me 3 months to make 60 grand back in like 1987. Well, one day I sold 3 lots and I made 60,000. I paid 10 grand a piece for them, but I sold them for 30 a piece. So collectively, I in an hour, it took me an hour, less than an hour to buy the property, less than an hour to sell the properties. And I made 60,000. I thought, you know what? I just made more money in an hour than I made in 6 months building a home. And people envied me for making $60,000 on a single house in like 3 months. Really, it took 3 months to build the house, but this other bullshit you got to go through with, plan check and different stuff, get a construction loan. But that's when I became a big believer in land. And just that's small. That's decent. That's your you're hitting singles, right? And doing well. But I got 10 acres out here. I paid $30,000. This is in the 80s. Paid $30,000, sold it for $165, made $130 grand. This was a big one back then. I bought a property for $140,000, 70 acres, $2,000 an acre. Bought it for $140, sold it for $520, made $350,000. Single transaction. And this is when I was in my 20s. And so you can see why I'm such a believer in it. And so, and believe me, you guys are out there, use AI. Use AI. Ask AI questions. You get some bullshit, fake guru, test them. In other words, test their claims. I did a bunch of different stuff on one particular guru, made outrageous claims, and people just look foolish. He looks foolish for even making the claims, because it's not something a real builder would do. And anyways, but so check it out here. Definitely take time to do that. I don't know that there's any reason to go any much further with this with Tom, but Tom, it was great information, and. Not what I do, but I appreciate your point of view, and maybe someday we can do something together, and we can kind of have a war of better ways to get wealthy. I'd love to do that, and I think everybody would enjoy watching it. They're already asking for it. So, you played with options? Yeah, not me. But anybody got any other comments on that? Just say so. But otherwise, hey, thanks everybody for coming in. And I've got a webinar every Thursday. You can get in. You can talk to me directly, or if you go to flipanythingusa.com, all you got to do is go up here to apply. If you fill this little tiny form out to apply, you can have a free phone call with me, and I'll give you the best advice. I don't care if you get in the program or not. You have to be qualified to get in the program, right? I actually turn more people down than I let in. But again, never push anybody to do anything. If you don't want it, listen, if you don't want it, somebody has to talk you into something. Forget it. You're probably never going to be good at it. But if you have the desire, if you want it, I'm telling you, I don't feel like I've hardly worked a day in my life. I've had some ups and downs, but they're good problems, right? Like being disappointed that I didn't make as much as I thought I was going to. You know what I mean? These are really not problems at all. So anyways, I look forward to seeing everyone, and, next Friday. See you. You want to learn how to make millions of dollars in real estate? I've made tens of millions over my lifetime, and I'm showing people how to do it. Get in my free webinar. I have it every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central. Go to the link below, flipanythingusa.com/webinar. Sign up for it. You can talk to me face-to-face if you want. Don't waste any time. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. You don't want to miss my channel. I've been doing it for years.